Good morning, everyone. So we'll continue with chapter 8, physics, social, justice. Last day we discussed about development and problem faced by tribals. So we discussed that how they are evicted from their place, and after the eviction, what are the problems faced by the tribals? Understood. So we discussed that many of the land area went into the national park and sanctuaries, and like this they were evicted from those places. Now after eviction, what is there? Because with the land, their main source of livelihood also gone. Right? That forest was the main source of their livelihood. They don't know anything other than living in the forest. Right? So mainstream society and the tribal society is having a lot of differences. Living in forest and living in city is very, very different. Right? Now they are living from starting in the forest. When they are evicted from their place and they don't know how to go and how to earn money in the city. Right? So they are not educated also. They have never went to schools. Right? So in that situation, if you see, when they are evicted, this means of income wiped out. With that, they went to they have to migrate. Right? Migrate where? Not to other forest area. In fact, they have to migrate to cities. Okay, when they are migrating to cities, they are not educated, right? They don't know the culture and tradition of city now. So at that situation, what will be there? Which kind of work they will get? Obviously, they will get work like labor and domestic work like that. So with that, how much they can earn? They can earn very low wages with that, right? So when they are migrated to cities in search of job, they are employed on very low wages, right? Now we are either on the construction sites or industries, factories and all, right? Now, with that, what happens? They have low wages. They were not educated. Because of they were not educated, they got the job of low wage. With that low wage, they cannot educate their children. They cannot send their kids to the school because it takes money. It takes money, right? You need to spend money to send the children to the school. In that situation, also one more factor is there. You will say government schools are there, ma'am, they can send them. But with that low wage, they cannot maintain their livelihood for the family. They cannot do that. So what they do, the man is also working, the woman of the family is also working, then man is working in industries, construction sites, the same, the woman is also working on the construction sites or as domestic worker at someone's home. So both are getting some of the salary, but still that is very low to survive if they are having 4 to 5 children. In case they are having 4 to 5 children, it is not sufficient for them. So what they do, when their child become of the age of 9, 10 like this, they send them for work in some of the industries, dhabas and all. So basically for the child labor. I know it is prohibited, but still, from where do this child who do this kind of labor are coming? From there only it is coming. It is prohibited, but still you will find some of the small kids working on the factory sites or some of the dhabas. You will still find that. In that case, from where these So these kids are coming from here, from this kind of situation. Understood? So a man is working, woman is working, still unable to fulfill their basic need. What is basic need? First is food and clothes, right? A shelter. They cannot live on road, right? So food, shelter, and then clothes. That is the basic need first. Then secondary, you will go for education. So, but for survive, you need first these three things. So, to fulfill these three things, they don't have enough money. So, if they don't have enough money to get clothes, to eat food, to live in a house, how will they go for the second primary thing, which is education? For them, they are second primary thing. Understood? So, like this, they will not send the children to the school for education. They will instead send them to work, so that they will get some money and they can at least have 2-3 times of meal. Understood? Like this, what will happen when the kids are also not educated? They will not go to school, they will not be educated. Again, what will happen? They will also earn and live their life as the same like their parents did. Right? If they are not educated, they will do the same job, same work, same low wage work they will do whole life. And they will be also not able to educate their child. Like this, what happens? There is a cycle of poverty. There is cycle of poverty and deprivation. That means this cycle will continue generation till generation till generation. And like this, they will never come out of this poverty. They will always remain in the poverty. Oh, is this? Okay, so they will always remain in the poverty. They will be trapped in the cycle of poverty. Okay, with this, when they go into the cycle of poverty, what happens? They will not have enough money. Instead, the man is working, female is working, the child is working, still they will not get that much of money. They get very low wages. Understood? Which is not sufficient. For them, themselves also, for one person also, which is not sufficient. In that, they have to run the family. Okay, in that case, all the family member has to work. So, in that situation, children will be malnourished. That means they will not get balanced diet. If they will not get balanced diet, they have to go through the diseases caused because of the malnutrition. Right? You would have read about the diseases caused by the malnutrition. So those things will be happen, and for that also they don't have money for the treatment. If they don't have money to eat, how will they treat? Yes? Low literacy rate, which I already explained. How low literacy rate will be there, right? So these, because of these things, because of the poverty, these things will be there, exist in their life. Understood? So this will happen when they are migrated to cities. Now the thing is, we discussed that they will lose their source of income, but with that, many things are lost. Many things are lost. That means their knowledge is lost. How their knowledge is lost? See, you would have read in class 7 that these tribal peoples were not having any written source of history. How do we know about them? We don't have any written source. Only there are some exceptions. Very few exceptions there and kept their rules and regulations anywhere. They orally transfer their traditions and cultures. Suppose there is a generation and their next generation they are teaching. They are living in forest. Yes, these things are done this like this. But once they left the forest, that knowledge which was there with them lost. Understood? How? See. So Adivasis, they have the knowledge of approximately 8,000 species of plants used for medicines, used for medicinal purpose. Do you understand? 8,000 species of plants which is being used for medicinal purpose. Such a deep knowledge these people were having about forest. Then 325 pesticides. 325 pesticides. Then 425 gums, resins and dyes. Then they had 550 fibers, plants which can be used as fibers, 3,500 edible plants. So you can see such a huge knowledge, such an expand knowledge they were having about the forest. This knowledge they gained by thousands of years, right? But when they are migrating and they are now working in the construction sites and other work, they obviously will forget all this knowledge. This knowledge will be lost, right? So this entire knowledge system will be wiped out, okay? With the migration of Adivasis. Any question till now, anyone? Any question? If you have any question, please ask. Now if you see, there is an interconnection in social and economic aspect. Okay, social and economic dimension is interlinked. Okay, how? That you will understand. There is a connection between the social and economic dimension. See, if you exclude someone socially, economically also they will be suffering. How? Suppose there is some community, okay, or a person. If there is a person or a community and the whole society has excluded that person is having a shop for his livelihood, and if the people have excluded the person from the society, so what will happen? They will not go to their shop, right? They will go to another shop because they have excluded them. Now in that situation, the shop is the source of livelihood for that person, so that person will not get income. If no one will go, if customers will be less income will be there, right? So like this, the social dimension and economic dimension is interconnected. If socially someone has been boycott, they have to suffer economically, financially. Understood? Because the people will boycott now. And how will you get income? You will get income when you will go with the people. If you have shop, you need customers. From where customers come? From the society only the customers will come. But the society have excluded you. So in that case, how will you get your income? Right? The same thing. If a group of people has been boycotted by companies, some companies are there, they have boycotted some group of people. Now whenever they will go to the companies for a job, they will not give them because they have excluded them. So how they will get job? How they will do their income? How they will run their livelihood? Right? So if someone is socially excluded, they have to suffer economically because these two dimensions are interconnected. Understood? If there will be destruction in one dimension, if there will be destruction in one dimension, naturally impacts the other. That I have already explained how it impacts. Then you have often the process of displacement and dispossession can be painful and violent. I have to explain, I am explaining this line. Often the process of displacement and dispossession can be painful and violent. How? Suppose you are living at your home. Okay, you are living at your home, your grandfather, your father, everyone lived in the same home. Now you are also living in that home. So when you leave there, you make many memories, right? You have built a lifestyle which is from hundreds of years. Your grandfather spent your life, his father spent your life, your father spent your, from generations we are living there and we have developed a lifestyle there. Okay, all of a sudden the government come to you and tell, no, this house does not belong to you. This house this place we need for our work. We need to make road, or we need to build road, we need to build railway track, anything. All of a sudden they come to you and they say that we want your land. That is not yours. So in that situation, what are you going to do? You will have a lot of pain. You will go through a lot of pain because you have built a lifestyle there. You have so many memories there. Your generation lived there. The first thing, when you have to move, where will you go? You cannot go to others' land and do the same which government did to you, right? So you have to find new place to live. If you go to new place, you have to find the source of income. You have to take the whole family. So in that case, and if government is not giving you anything, nor money, nor other place to live, they are only asked you to leave the place. This is not yours. Obviously, you will go through a lot of pain, and it may make the people violent, right? Generally, this doesn't happen. If government takes land, they give compensation to the people. Either they will give other place to live, either they will give you the money, compensation they give. I am telling the situation which happened with the tribals. They were not given any place to live. They were only asked to leave the place. Right? And some people who actually sold their forest land, they sold it on very low price. because they did not had any option. Understood? And with that money, they were not able to start a new life. Okay, that was not enough for them. So in this situation, when people see everything is finished, right? I have to go to new place. I don't know how people will behave with this. How I will run my family. Will I survive? Will I die? That kind of situation. Obviously, the group or people become violent. Understood? So this kind of process is always painful and violent. Any question here? Any question, anyone? Till now? Okay. So we'll move ahead. Now here the tribal section is finished. Now we have the minorities. Okay. Minorities are also considered marginalized. Understood? We discussed about the tribals till now. That tribals, what happened with them and they were marginalized. But minorities are also there who are considered marginalized. Okay, first we will understand who are minorities. You people must be knowing who are minorities, who will be considered minorities. But for definition, I am telling you. Communities that are numerically small in relation to the rest of the population. Is called minority. Understood? So, suppose if you see, I am only giving you an example in society how it is done, we'll explain later. In your class, suppose the class is a group of society. Okay, your class is a group of society. Now here, suppose there are 12 students. Suppose I am telling and I am not aware about it. So 12 students are there. In this, suppose there are only 3 girls and rest of the 9 boys. So if you see numerically the girls are less from the boys. Right? So here girls will be called minority. Understood? What is minority? Numerically, if the community is small in relation to the rest of the population, so they will be considered minority. Okay. Now it encompasses issues of power, access to resources, and has social and cultural dimensions. So what happens if you see what is the problem with these minorities? So problem is they have issue with powers. Mostly power remain with the people who are in majority. That we have already discussed What is the problem with minority and majority? Always majority try to dominate the minority. Okay, because they have power. Suppose if there is 10 people, one team A and 3 people team B. So